Hello everyone. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful time getting ready for Christmas. I'm sure you're all busy running around doing last minute things, but if you're home and if you're off work, maybe you're able to join me for a Christmas edition of Show Me How It's Done. So I will forewarn you, this video is a lot longer than I usually do, since I'm not just showing you a simple technique. I went all out and I made a Buddy the Elf card. So if this is a Christmas classic in your house, maybe you'll have to whip up one of these. This is my husband's favorite movie. Pretty much the only movie he's ever excited about over the holidays, so it's become a staple in our house. And when I saw the Christmas Means More stamp set, among the sayings that I hold dear to my heart, I found the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear, which is of course Buddy's favorite quote. So I would like to show you guys how to make this adorable Buddy the Elf card. So it's got a fun little belly band, there we go, that slides off, and I'll teach you how to make that. And then we've got the whole Buddy the Elf in the card here, and I did end up making a little stand so that it can stand up as well. So I have you guys zoomed in because I want you to be able to see all the little details that I'm doing, but I will post pictures of this card later so you can see it in its entirety. So I would like to teach you how to make a Buddy the Elf card. Okay, so again, I warn you, lots of little pieces. I will try to go slow and we'll get through this together, but I'll give you all the measurements so you can follow along or just watch the replay later too, okay? So your task number one is you will need a piece of basic black cardstock. Okay, so I folded this already just so it fit in the envelopes that I was sending it off in. And it measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches. And I've already put my score mark at the 5 1/2 mark. However, I will warn you, you need a trimmer and your scoreboard today. We are going to do one more score line. So as I mentioned, there's a score line right here, the 5 1/2 inch mark. We're also going to put a score line at the 8 1/4 inch mark. Okay, so 8, and then move over 2, that is 8 1/4 right here, and put a line. So now the funny thing about this is we're not folding our card typically like you would. You're going to have your big section up at the top here. We're going to work on that. And then these parts, you're bending this one backwards. So we've got a fold here, okay? Make sure to grab a bone folder so you've got a nice crisp line for that. And this should give you an easel to work with, okay? If you can imagine, this is Buddy's shirt, and here is where his legs are going, okay? So this is how it should be facing you when you are ready to work on this piece. However, we're not going to attach things quite yet, so you can go ahead and just set this aside for a moment. We need to cut a couple other things too. Okay, so we're going to do some shaded spruce cutting, and we might as well do 2 at once. Okay, so this piece here it's going to go on the back of my black piece to give you an easel to hold your card up and for you to have a space to write in. So this one here, it measures 4 inches across and 10 1/2 inches long. You're going to put a score mark right here at the 5 1/4 inch mark. Okay, so that's basically just folding this piece straight in half. Okay, so again, 4 inches, the whole sheet measures 10 1/2. Put a score mark at 5 1/4. Okay, just put that one aside. Again, we will deal with it later, but what we really needed was this shaded spruce piece, and I figured while you're cutting, you might as well do both. So this guy measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. And this is going to be the piece that we're going to do quite a bit on right now. But before you do that, you're also going to need to cut yourself 2 little strips of shaded spruce. So they are both 1/2 inch wide. One of the strips is going to measure 1/2 inch by 4 3/4. The other one is 1/2 inch by 2 inches. Okay, we may end up trimming these depending on how things sit on your page. You can put this little 2 inch one aside. That's going to be for later. What we're worrying about right now is this 4 3/4 inch one. So this guy, we want to attach right in the middle of our project. Okay, so you want this to be, if you can imagine Buddy's coat right here, these are the little ribbons on his jacket. Okay, that's what I'm pretending it is. Okay, so the easiest thing to do is just grab a piece of double-sided tape, stick it straight up the middle there. If you're wondering, I did emboss these in the Wrapped in Texture embossing folder, just because I thought it gave it a little bit of dimension and kind of stood out from the background on this card here, okay? So it's up to you. You can use any other embossing folder, of course, or you can just leave it as the shaded spruce. But I think just adding a little tiny bit of texture means quite a bit. So you'll notice I did not go up to the top, because this is the one piece you most likely will not own right now, okay? So Buddy's little collar here, this piece is coming to us from the Handsome Hello suite that's coming out January 5th, okay? So if you notice, I can't show it to you in the catalog, but here's the set, kind of like that. Not the Christmas tree, it's from something else. But it comes with a bunch of different pieces to make collars, bow ties, ties, and this little guy right down here is what I used to make our white collar. Okay, so you may have to do most of this card and then save the rest for later. But I thought, what a wonderful way to use something that's coming out in the catalog. And as you can see, this one's going to be perfect for Father's Day, birthdays, masculine cards galore. So I cut this little guy out of Whisper White. And if you want to add even more texture to it, run it through an embossing folder. I used the subtle one. You won't even be able to see it unless you're right up close to my card. But it just makes the white have a little bit of character without wrecking. You see how fragile this middle piece is? It doesn't bend my paper as much as an embossing folder like the Wrapped in Texture would. So the subtle embossing folder, super soft, doesn't pull on my paper a lot. I'm going to put a little adhesive on there. If you've got your tape still handy, you can go ahead and add it, or just grab a couple glue dots. If you end up ripping the collar as you're working, that's okay. It will line up perfectly when you lie it down, so don't stress. This just goes right up at the top, and I didn't want the collar showing through in this top section, which is why we only cut this piece at 4 3/4, okay? And why we started attaching it from the bottom up. So this looks adorable on its own, and if you don't want to emboss and add the filigree, then you're going to just hold tight and wait for me to move you to the next part of the project. But I'm going to show everyone how I added some filigree to the project. And if you don't have embossing powder, you just don't want to do this extra stuff, just wait. It'll look adorable still without it. But the classic, iconic Buddy the Elf, of course, has all of this stitching down his coat. I didn't have anything that looked exactly like that, so I kind of was racking my brain for what I could use, and I came up with the Celebration Tidings, these little swirls here with the dots. Okay, we're going to use both of those. And then from my tag buffet, I stole the little leaves. Okay, so you'll probably have numerous stamps with an image like this. It doesn't have to be this image. All you're wanting to look for is something that has a little stitching look and maybe something to offset it, okay? So anything will go. Just take a look at your supplies. You'll probably find some goodies even amongst your regular stamps, not just Christmas. You could use leaves. You can use anything you want. So these are the two that I chose to use, and I'm going to show you what I did to get that look on there. So I'm going to move my scoreboard here for the moment. We'll come back to him later, so keep it close by. But I'm going to do a little bit of stamping and embossing. So I'm using my Versamark ink, which is our sticky ink pad. If you don't own it, you probably should. It's so fun. And then just gold embossing powder. We have gold, silver, bronze, but I thought the gold was exactly what I needed. So I've mounted my stamps onto some blocks here, and we're just going to do stamping. I'm gonna go really quick because you don't want this to dry, okay? So I'm gonna just get my stamped images down. I'm going on either side of my little collar here, and you probably can't really even see what I'm doing at the moment. You will see as soon as I put on some embossing powder how it looks, okay? So, but you just want to work quickly because this stuff will dry on you if you don't. Okay. So just nice down your project. Your leaves at the bottom here, you'll only be able to fit part of a leaf. Okay, now we're gonna bring this over to my tray, and I'm gonna dump embossing powder all over it. Okay, there we go. Lots and lots of embossing powder, just to make sure this works. And then if you don't have one of these trays, just use a Tupperware or a bowl, something large enough for you to be able to get all of your card front in there, okay? And then, oh, I didn't bring it down, but usually I have a makeup brush that I use to just brush off any excess embossing powder. You also may choose to use, we have something called an embossing buddy, and you would do that before you start embossing. Mine is very old, and I probably just need to get a new one soon. Okay, so there we go. You can see I've got a nice amount of embossing powder on my images. So the key for this, if embossing is new to you, don't touch this right now because it's all loose powder, briefly held on with your ink. So what you need is our fancy dancy heat tool. So our newest ones are gray. This is an old but a goodie. And what I'm gonna do, because I don't want my card to be bending, is I'm gonna start heating it a little further away than I usually would. And you can also even pick up your project and heat from the bottom too. So it's gonna get loud, and I'm gonna stop talking while I'm embossing. Okay, so I'm just going to stop for a second. Hopefully you guys can see the difference. I have embossed one side of my project so far, and you can see how shiny it is compared to the dull powder that's still showing up on the other side here, okay? So as soon as it starts getting glossy, you just keep moving up your project. There we go. Okay, so you will need to keep that stuff handy because we'll have one more section that we're going to be embossing. And I'm also going to teach you something fun. So this little piece here, just set him up at the top for one moment because we need to make a belt for our little elf, okay? So I have cut a strip of basic black cardstock. It measures 1/4 inch, and it's 6 inches long, which is much longer than I need, but I wanted to be able to have extras to wrap around the back of the card instead of just laying this flat on the front. And I will show you why with the little buckle. These guys, they came from, it's a suite in our main catalog, the, I forget what it is. It's the globe one, the one with the world map and the globe stamps and everything. There are these little antique corner sliders. So they come with this little look as well as corner pieces. And I used a bunch of the corner pieces for Christmas cards. So I was left with a pile of these little guys, wondering what on earth to do with them. So they look adorable if you were to just take this. And this is why this thing is so small, because you want it to be able to fit inside your corner slider. But I'm going to show you a trick on how to actually emboss this and make it bright, shiny gold. Okay? This is why this video is so long today, because I have so many tricks to show you. So grab your little embossing ink. Pick which side you want. Do you want the little grooves or do you want the flat side embossed? I'm going to go with the grooves and just tap, tap, tap so that you get this guy into your Versamark ink pad. There's my doorbell. I hope it's just a package. See if he leaves. Okay, sorry guys. Somebody's at the door. Be right back. Hi, Lauren? Yes, thank you so much. You too. Sorry, I'm too lazy to go to the post office and go pick it up. Okay, so tap, tap, tap in your Versamark ink, and then in your nice pile of embossing powder, dump this in, shake it so that it's kind of covering it. Then you can grab either your take your pick tool, but I like scissors because you can actually grab the piece and rub it in here a little bit. Okay, and then if you just grab the middle part, we're going to heat emboss this, okay? So hold it with your scissors so you don't get burned. And then we're gonna heat emboss this till it turns bright, shiny gold. So you see, it's very boring, powdery. And then look at that, it's so beautiful. Oh, hold on. Focus. Wrong thing focusing. Doesn't want you to see it. Okay, set it down. This will need just a couple seconds to cool, but okay, there you go. You can see how shiny it is and how gold. It's so beautiful. Okay, so give this one just a couple seconds to cool off. It'll be fine just sitting in front of you. This would probably be a good time to just go ahead and cut that piece of black. And you can go ahead and add adhesive. Maybe not, because most of you are using snail. I use tape, so this is why I can cheat and I can do my adhesive now while I'm waiting, because all I have to do is take off the backings later. Okay, so there we go. If you're using seal, don't do it yet, because you need to be able to see the front. All right, here we go. Grab your little embellishment and your belt and just feed it through. You might have to kind of work it at an angle, or I will show you one other tip. Take your piece of paper, because it's very stiff right now, and just grab a bone folder. This breaks up the fibers in your belt. Okay, so go front and backwards, because you don't actually want it bent, you just want it loose so that it kind of moves for you. Okay, so it's nice and flexible now. It'll go through my belt really, really easily. Okay, back and forth, and then try and get it roughly in the middle of your space as much as you can. Okay, and then we're going to take 2 pieces of tape and just tuck this to the back. Okay, so if you look at Buddy the Elf, his belt is more to the bottom or the middle of his stomach, I guess, than it is kind of up towards his chest. So that's why we're putting our belt a little bit lower here. Okay, so what I like to do is just hold the belt, tuck this guy back, and then you can go ahead and put a piece of tape across that piece. Because your belt has so much thickness, this metal piece, that's why we're not trying to attach the black part straight to the card. It would mean a lot of gluing and frustration for you. So I'm just tucking the excess around the back, like so. Okay, and it also gives you a little bit more adhesive to attach to your card with. Okay, so go ahead, if you've put adhesive on now, and take that all off, and we're going to bring in that black card base that we have been using in the first place. Okay, it's cut, it's waiting, it's ready to go. There we go. Now before you put it on your black piece, make sure you're holding the black piece the right way. Okay, and that was Buddy the Elf's shirt and the legs coming out towards you. Okay, we're going to put his shirt on right here in the middle of this black, like so. And while we're working on top of the card base, we can go ahead and bring in this piece of shaded spruce that was the easel in the back. So just turn this guy all over, and we're going to attach this to the back. It doesn't matter which side is the front, just attach one of them to the black cardstock. Okay. Like so. So it's nice when you have everything handy and ready to go. There we go. Attach that to the back. And this will help you be able to hold your card up like so. And you have a space to write. If you'd like, you can also put a piece of paper in here, maybe some white, or in my sample card, I ended up doing Bumblebee, which is the same color that we're going to use for the legs. And originally I had my sentiment on the inside, and I had a card like this, and I thought it was a little plain, so that's why I made the belly band and put it on the outside too. So if you want, put a piece of Bumblebee in here. You'll measure 3 3/4 by 5 inches for that piece on there, okay? But you don't have to. It's also easy enough to write on shaded spruce with a black marker. Okay, so we've got a nice jacket, but we need some legs, okay? So we're gonna do the toughest leg first, which is going to be this one here, because we need to not only make the bottom of Buddy's coat, we need to cut legs so he doesn't look like just like a stick guy. So it's really an interesting technique, but don't worry, I will walk you through it, okay? So we're going to cut pieces of Bumblebee cardstock, but you can do this at the same time, okay? So we're gonna cut this piece and these two pieces. So the first piece of Bumblebee cardstock that you will need is going to measure 2.5 inches by 3 3/4. This is the one we're going to use right now, so keep it handy. The two other pieces that you're going to need measure 1.5 by 2.5, and you'll need 2 of them, okay? Cut those, put them aside, 1.5 by 2.5. And then move this guy out of your way just for a few minutes because we need some room to work on this piece. So this piece was, again, 2.5 by 3 3/4. You'll want to grab a ruler and a pencil, and I will try to be as specific with these measurements as I can, okay? So hopefully you can see through here, okay? So I like to line up my little tick marks along the bottom so I can see it, okay? And we're going to make a tick mark at 1.5, and then you're going to make a tick mark at 2.25, And then you need one right in the middle here. So this one is going to be 1 7/8. So if you look at your 2, do you see 2? Count backwards 2 tick marks. 1, 2. Okay? That will be 7/8 on your ruler. So we have 1 1/2, 1 7/8, and then 2 1/4. On the top of your page, you are going to need just a tick mark at 1 7/8. So remember, find the 2 and then count backwards 2 lines. That makes 7/8. Put a tick mark and then draw a connecting line between those two. Okay? So this is what I should see so far if we're looking at your picture. Now one more little tick mark before we get fancy here. Line up your ruler on that line that you just drew in the middle, and from the very top you should put a tick mark at 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch right there. So you almost can visualize you've got a little triangle kind of right here, just like we're cutting out for this. If you want to freehand this, please be my guest. However, your legs may be a little different if you end up doing that. So that's why I gave you the measurements exactly for these legs. You'd end up maybe having to trim your legs if you were off center a tiny bit. Okay, so if you would like, you can go ahead and make those lines for a little triangles. Do them super softly though. Or if you feel confident enough, you can just start freehand cutting this section now, okay? So grab some scissors and we're just cutting out this triangle piece. And I always use a pencil just in case I end up cutting off of my area a little bit. I can always erase anything that's left over, okay? Don't worry about the top part here. That's going to be covered, so you don't need to worry that there's still a line, okay? So you've cut out this little triangle, like so. You can throw that away. You don't need to keep that. Now what we're going to do is his little coat right here, okay? So again, I promised you it's a little complicated. We'll go slow. So in your layering ovals dies, if you own those, you can see some of mine here, okay? So your ovals come like this. You get some scalloped ones and you get some plain ones. You need the third largest one, okay? So that means this is the largest one. This would be the second largest one because technically it would go inside of it, but it doesn't just sit on your platform nicely like that. So largest, second largest, third largest. This is the die you would use, and you would cut out 2 shaded spruce ovals. While you have this die out, please cut out one in Whisper White as well. That will be our die for our belly band tag, okay? And then again, since you have the ovals out, we might as well grab the layering circle. So you're not using the largest one, you're using the second largest one in Cherry Cobbler. Okay, so 2 shaded spruce, 1 Whisper White, 1 Cherry Cobbler. All right, and by the magic of video, I'm done. So I have these fancy little guys that I now need to figure out how to put onto my project, okay? So quick tip, just grab a little bit of tape here, throw that across the top of your elf right there, and then just put a little bit kind of on the top part of the leg. Don't go anywhere past where this triangle ends because we're seeing that part, okay? So this is now where we're going to stick our ovals on. And I like to just do them kind of at the same time because you'll want them, you have to eyeball where they go, okay? So my little tip is don't go right on top of the triangle. You want to kind of cover the tip of the triangle a little bit so it doesn't just look like you're pointing up to the crotch, okay, with a pair of leggings. So just grab these guys, go over top a little tiny bit of that triangle. These should be roughly centered, okay, like so. Now it looks like you've got a huge pair of pantaloons, which is, you know, maybe not the look we're going for. So you can grab your scissors if you want, or the reason I didn't tell you to put adhesive on these ovals is this is safe enough for you to use your trimmer and get a nice clean line. Okay, so I'm going to use my trimmer just because I like a clean line for this. And you're going to need to line this up, cutting off the top of these ovals first, okay? Oh, move your score one out of the way. There we go. Cut the tops of your ovals off. See that? Okay, get rid of those because that gives us a nice clean line for the top of our project now. But do not cut right up to the yellow on this side because if you can see, I have made his jacket come out just a tiny little bit from his thighs, just like we see in the movie cover. If you put it right up to his legs, he just looks weird. So try and do this with me, okay? So start by lining up your, here we go. Start by lining up your edge and then move over just like a 1/4 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, anything. Just give yourself a little bit of room off the side, okay? So you want his jacket coming off teeny tiny bit, okay? And then turn this over and we're going to do the same thing. So line your yellow up with the cutting blade and then move it over like an 1/8 of an inch so you can cut off that side too, okay? It looks much better, I promise. All right, now we're going to carry on with that filigree work. So I told you to cut this little continuation of his jacket seam. This one will be too long for what we need to do. I've made it long just because I didn't necessarily know where your ovals will end up. So you're gonna trim this on your own. This one again was a 1/2 inch by 2 inches. Put some tape on the back and then line it up in this little inseam here, okay? And then either with your trimmer or just scissors for this guy, because that would be a lot faster, trim off the excess, okay? And then if you chose to do filigree on the first part, you will probably want to continue that and do the next part with us, okay? So we're gonna bring in our stamps again, bring in our little Versamark, and bring in my gold. So for my jacket, I ended with my little holly leaves here. So that probably means I'm going to want to add some to the top of this section. But if you'll notice, it's very challenging to actually fit this filigree in here. So it's completely up to you. You can either try to get that in or you can just bite the bullet and add, whoop, flying all over the place, add the next layer of what you're doing, okay? So I think I'm just gonna go with the filigree like this and then add some holly leaves now instead at the bottom here. And then finish this off super nicely like so. You can't see what I'm doing, but when I add some embossing powder, there we go. I like to just flick on the back of it, get off anything that's sticking. Again, you could grab a makeup brush and just wipe off anything that's staying. Okay, so here's my filigree. If you were super worried about those hollies, you could always add them to the top of your piece now, but I think I'm fine. So, going to grab my heat tool again and heat this part up. There we go. All right, his legs look adorable. So go ahead and grab some adhesive, put it on the back, only put it on the yellow part. You want his little jacket to be able to not be bent backwards. Like this tape because you can just cut it to any size you need. Go. All right, and then this is going to go on the very top portion, right underneath his jacket here, okay? Like so. All right, so he looks kind of funny. He's got a nice jacket, and then he's got like shorts, literally. So let's finish these legs, okay? So these other two pieces of bumblebee cardstock that I told you to cut, we're going to grab adhesive and put them on right now. These are going to be the rest of his legs. And just a little hint, we don't want a huge gap between, so just butt this piece up right to the seam that you see the score line here, okay? So there's just a teeny tiny gap in there, a teeny tiny gap there. All right, and then I figured we needed some boots, right, or some shoes. So we didn't really have an awesome elf shoe die. So what I decided to do was make my own. This is kind of a hodgepodge project that maybe you can think of another way to do. But we're going to use some dies here from the Menagerie Mix-Up set. Okay, so here's a whole whack of dies that we have to choose from. And of course, you can see the candy cane right there. That's going to be Buddy's shoe. But then this oval here that's often used for the little creatures' heads is what we're going to use just to add a little bit of character to it as well, okay? So here are the two dies right there, okay? So I cut those both out of basic black. You'll need 2 candy canes, but only 1 of the oval dies because we're just going to cut it in half and we can use it this way. And I did emboss it also just with the other wrapped in texture embossing folder. You're welcome to do the same or a different embossing folder. Okay, so cut this in half like so. And then turn your candy canes over. So we needed, also just an FYI, if you're embossing your candy canes, make sure to emboss some opposites. You can't just put them all in the same direction. Otherwise your embossing will be on the different side. Okay, so 2 opposites. And then you can grab either some tape or a glue dot, totally up to you. I'm just gonna do a little thing of tape because it's easy peasy, but a glue dot would work as well. Okay. And then so this is attached, you're gonna just attach the very edge of this piece, okay? So don't attach it all the way down, just make a little shoe here, like so, okay? So one, and then we're going to do the other one, like this, okay? And now a little trick of how I got a little indent in the top, right here. You can either take a teeny tiny circle punch, or you can take the tip of this die and run it through your embossing folder or your embossing machine. So I'll show you how to do that. I'm gonna break open my baby boss for you. This guy is so cute. Look at this, it's so tiny. I love it. So this guy is available come January 5th, and it is perfect. It's so light and compact, and it's really easy to bring anywhere you need. So I haven't even opened up the packaging. You're going to need your base plate and 2 cutting plates. Do not need number 4. Whew, brand new. There we go. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna turn this, otherwise I won't be able to rotate it at all. Okay, there we go. So you need plate 1 and plates 2 when you're using dies. Okay, so put one of the number 2 plates down, put one of your black pieces here, and the tip can go in there. You can do this both at once if you do it properly. Okay, so you can see it is cutting off the tips of both of them at the same time. Okay, put your other number 2 plate on top and then roll this through. Oh, just cuts like butter. It's so cute. Be really bad if it didn't work. There we go. Okay, so then I'm just gonna put this die away so it doesn't get lost. Too many things out at once. Okay, and then you can take, oh whoops, I left my adhesive on the back. That's fun. Okay, pry this off, because you know, you need to do that. There we go. There we go. And then I put dimensionals onto the back of these shoes for them to stand up with. There we go. And they just go on the very bottom of the feet here. I have to fix that one because I left the tape on it. Kind of warped it in the machine. That's okay. I can fix it later. All right. So there is your cute set of shoes all ready to go. And as I mentioned, yeah, I'm just gonna take that shoe off. We'll want to make sure that you can add a belly band now to make your project perfect. Okay. Here, I know how to fix this. There we go. Much nicer. Okay, let's add a little belly band. Okay, so we need a piece of basic black cardstock, and this is going to be cut at 1 inch by 11 inches. Here we go. What am I doing? Oh, that's the wrong measurement that I was reading. There we go. 1 inch by 11 inches. Put a score mark at 3 1/4 and 7 5/8. So if you need that visual, 3 1/4 is right here. And then the 5/8, so you've got 7, 7 1/4, 7 1/2. 5/8 is the next tick mark after the 7 1/2. Okay, so 7 5/8. This is what we're doing for our belly band. And then we would have already cut these two pieces earlier. So this was that third largest oval die and the second largest scallop. I stamped my sentiment in shaded spruce. And then to finish it off, I'm going to grab my dark shaded spruce and just color in the leaves. So you don't need to use two tones because the green in your stamp already gives you the darker green in the image. Okay, so I don't need the light and dark shaded spruce. Just grab one of them and it's perfect. And then of course you want some nice red berries. So I grabbed my dark cherry cobbler for that one. And we're just coloring on the inside here. There we go. Oh, FedEx is here. Yay. I have so many packages that have not come, and I think they're just all coming today. So that's great. All right, so fold on both of your lines here, and then put a little bit of adhesive. Put one piece on the end of that one there, and then the other goes onto the flap that's closing. Yours might be folded the opposite way, so just make sure you've got two connecting pieces, okay? There we go. And then to attach these two, I put this flat with some tape, but the red we're going to pop up on dimensionals. Okay. So instead of putting dimensionals on your oval, because you realize some of them won't actually stick, we're going to put our dimensionals onto the belly band itself. So just put some in the middle here, like so. There. So then now you have a cute little belly band that you can put over the top of your card. You may have to kind of wiggle it a little bit to get it in place, but it will do it. It'll hold those legs in place. And then you've got an adorable Christmas card. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun, even if it's a little busy of a project, but it's still a really, really cute project for you to be able to make. And hopefully you'll be able to either find something to substitute for the little neckline, or maybe you are looking forward to purchasing that handsome suite come January 5th. If you're in Canada, you're welcome to shop with me. If you're anywhere in the world, you're still welcome to message me if you have any questions at all. I hope that you guys have a very Merry Christmas, and I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Bye!